Hi guys. Well, you asked me for this mega waffle, so don't you go blaming me, okay? I suppose, well, to start I should give you a picture of my past. I'm going back to the 60s roundabout. At that time, well, I was sort of buffing around the east coast, the Blackwater estuaries, Tollsbury, Mersey, Malden, all that sort of area. Didn't have a proper job, I just did odd jobs as and when I needed cash. Didn't want much, only myself to feed and pebbles aboard a collie. I went home frequently as Mum always made sure I got a decent meal, and laundry and that made a change from seagulls, eggs, oysters, and always blinking fish, well, nearly always. I crewed a bit, you see, on a fishing boat. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed that. There was one day there was a big botter came in. That's a sort of a Dutch type craft, a massively built thing with big lee boards. I always thought they looked a bit like a giant blinking clog. Anyway, a lovely family lived on board, a couple with kids. At one time there was a really high tide, and I saw the kids waiting on the path waving to Mum. I knew the tide had a couple more hours to run, so I rowed over and picked them up and dropped them on board. I was asked to stay to tea. Cool, not half. We had toasted crumpets. Thought, great, well worth the blinking row any time. Later on, the weather got pretty grotty, when a converted lifeboat come in, and they had one kid. Got friendly with him. They only pulled in as he'd broken his rudder. He took a temporary job as a milkman or something. I think just enough to buy materials and repair the rudder. Once he'd done that, they were off to Cyprus. I think he's worried about being the only male on board. He said, "Do you want a crew?" I chickened out on that one. Told him I enjoyed his lifestyle. He pointed out a hull he thought had some really good features. It was a 43-foot long with a straight stem but a long counterstern. The rudder stem came through the counterstern with a sort of a brass dome over it, and it said Germaine 1882. He pointed out things that made it something special, and he knew who owned it. It was a couple with a small kiddie. I only saw the bloke once, but she was always pushing the pram across the saltings. She lived in a sort of scruffy little boat. Never saw her again, she moved. But matey knew her. Said she wants to sell it. You want to go for it? It's yours for 25 quid. Well, a couple of weeks, I'd got that. Matey got her address. She's living on a houseboat somewhere in London. Bummed a lift, found a canal, walked miles, found the boat, but no one about. No one knew her. I waited all morning. No one turned up. Well, I was young, naive, silly. That's me. I put the money in an envelope saying, "Boat for sale, I'll have it." Stuck my name and address on and put it under the door. Did I say I was silly? Anyway, a week later I got a reply. It was a handwritten receipt for me money, a letter transferring Germaine to me, declaration of no outstanding dues, moorings paid in full. From now on it's down to me. Found some info on Lloyd's Reg from 1931. Says she was built by Nicholson's of Campbell and Nicholson's of Gosport for an F.W. Laybourne Popham. That name popped up when we were on holiday. We had relatives on the Isle of Wight. Often went there. Anyway, one day, standing, look at some interesting boat bits in a window. This was in Cowes. Didn't seem to be a shop or anything, and it was all locked up anyway. And the door opened and a woman said, "Do you want to have a look round?" Well, yeah. So in we went. She locked the door behind us. She said, "Would you like to sign the visitor's book?" Anyway, it turned out to be a private collection, a sort of museum. owned by Upper Fox. He was the guy who designed the lifeboats they dropped from Wellingtons during the war. He was a good friend of the Duke of Edinburgh, and they used to race at Cowsweek. There was some smashing classic boat gear, all sorts of stuff, and a picture of F.W. Leybourne Popham. Now that name rang a bell. I had grand ideas of doing up Germaine, a world trip and all that. Wow, what a stupid idea. I didn't have a clue as to the cost. Would have cost thousands. I got bugger all now, and I had even less then. Anyway, I wrote to Camper and Nicholson's asking if they could give me any information. They wrote back saying, you know, there was a fire and all previous records were lost. Anyway, she floated okay and was a good base for me at the time. Other than a bit of bilge pumping, that seemed to be every day. It wasn't, but it seemed like it. Anyway, I did a little with her, and I had her for about 5 years, I suppose. Then I got a proper job, and circumstances changed, so Barn Seller, a colleague at work, showed great interest, so I gave it to him. I was under the impression he'd sort of do something with her. Well, that's what I hoped anyway. I've got a sort of philosophy, well, not philosophy, but I sort of believe you don't own a boat, you're just custodians for the next chap, you know? Anyway, he towed her further around the coast, much closer to where he lived, and it laid in a mud berth for a few more years. Didn't look like he'd done much to it. She went from bad to worse, to even worse to gone. Guess he didn't pay his mooring fees, and it was broken up or rotted away, and that, as they say, is that. Life moved on for me. I got married, kids a lot, you know. The last little video I did on the little artifact, it's sort of, well, one thing has led to another. And the piece of wood, or the plinth, was a piece I got from Germaine. It's only a small bit. I knew it'd come in handy one day, but too small for much else. I thought I'd look up some info on the boat to sort of make the vid a bit more sort of interesting. Well, I found damn all. Only stuff about firms, Germaine's birthday party and all that, you know. So I put up a quick video asking you lot to have a quick look. The video was up for, what, less than half an hour? Well, 23 minutes to be precise. And I had 7 replies, all with links to Germaine's info. Wow, from then on, fantastic. She hadn't been broken up. She hadn't been rotted away. She was found by someone from Cameron Nicholson's and decided to take her in and restore her for their bicentenary celebrations. It sounded great. Then found out the yard got into difficulties and the idea was scrapped. Somehow Germaine ended up in a car park in a village near Southampton. Abandoned yet again. Had a notice free to anyone prepared to take it on. Well, a classic boat enthusiast, Patrick Bignon, I think I pronounced that right, apologies if I haven't, heard about this and he was up for the challenge. Bought it for £1. I suppose that made it legal. He shipped her to the International Boat Building Training Centre at Lowestoft. There she remained for more than 20 years, worked on by several hundred apprentices. Finally, in 2013, they launched her, and he sailed her home to Brittany, where I believe she's now. I contacted Patrick and said I once owned her, and he kindly sent me these photos. This is the result. Isn't she a cracker? I believe this is the guy who, without his involvement, she would not have been reborn. A great credit to him and all those involved, the chap who redrew her plans, the organisers, the students. Well, the list goes on and on. I only found this out a week or so back, so prior to that I knew nothing. So what a wonderful outcome. I couldn't wish for better. You can go to Germaine's homepage or Patrick's site He's put up all the pictures, the refit story, the lot, both in French and English. And thanks to J.Y. Becquignon, apologies again for me pronunciation, for taking the pictures, and Patrick for sending them to me and allowing me to show them. And finally, a real treat. You're watching YouTube right now, so at the top, type in Germaine on the Run. It should be the only one, or at least the first one. Click and enjoy.